Hi everyone, my name is Tanisha Mudrow. I am a Marriage and Family Studies major and I recently completed my internship. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what that was like, everything from the beginning of trying to find an internship to actually working at your internship and then completing it. I will tell you that I live in Texas. I completed the second half of my degree all online. So this internship is located in Texas. The name of it was Estrella's House, and it is a children's advocacy center. I had a really neat experience, and hopefully for those of you interested in an advocacy center or just any internship in the marriage and family major, this can provide some information for you. So the first thing is finding your internship. I'll just tell you a little bit about what my experience was with this. First, I had to think about what it is that I really wanted to do. There's actually quite a few things that I was interested in, so I had to kind of narrow my my desires, I guess, and think about what future professional goals I had, what it is that I wanted to do in the future, different career options. I had to think about what kinds of internships might provide experience that would help me in my future career. And I also talked to my internship coordinator. It's really good to get in contact with them well before you even need to begin applying for your internship. Find out what they suggest, find out what they did. They can give you a lot of good advice, and I did this, and it helped me narrow my focus and figure out what internship I wanted to pursue. So what I did is, because I'm not from Texas originally, me and my husband moved down here just about a year and a half ago. I wasn't very familiar with the area as far as places that would accept interns. So after I did all those things that I previously told you, thinking about what I wanted to do and talking to my coordinator, I discovered that the best thing for me would be to work at an advocacy center. I really wanted to work with children, and my coordinator suggested this, an advocacy center, because of the experience that it could provide me. So I got online and I searched for all the different advocacy centers in my area or things that were like advocacy centers, and I started recording information for all the potential places that I could receive my experience. Then I started narrowing my options. I began calling them and getting all the different places that I'd recorded information about. I called them and got information about what kinds of duties and responsibilities their interns would have, what kind of experiences and opportunities they would be provided, and also what the application process was like. After I did this, after speaking with people directly at the different sites, I discovered the one that sounded the most interesting to me and that I thought I would make the best fit for. So I applied, and then I religiously followed up. I think following up is one of the biggest things that you need to remember to do. I know my internship provider had to have a process a background check for me, and that can sometimes take a while. So just making sure that you're always on the ball and calling them and making sure that you know where you're at in that process before they notify you whether or not you're going to be able to intern with them. So I got the internship and I was super excited, and we jumped right in my very first day. Some of the responsibilities that I had included answering phones and transferring calls. Law enforcement agencies and CPS, along with some therapy clients, would call into our center, and I had to help direct those calls and answer questions. Part of this included setting appointments. Law enforcement will call into a children's advocacy center to set up an appointment for a child that's been a victim of some type of crime, whether it's sexual abuse or physical abuse and so forth. So you need to take down some key information like the law enforcement case number, the officer that's going to be assigned to the case, if CPS is involved, who the alleged perpetrator is, the child or the victim's name, who's going to be bringing the victim, their date of birth, and so forth. Childcare. This would be once the children arrive with their family, just making sure that they're comfortable and that they feel safe. This included everything from offering them drinks or cookies or snacks, asking if they wanted to play with toys, read books, or color, kind of explaining to them the process that they would go through, and asking if they had any questions. And then also at the end, it included giving each child a toy. And sometimes for less fortunate families, we also would provide them with basic necessities like some clothing or toiletries, things like that. Completing paperwork. This is a big thing. You need to document everything that you're doing when you're at a child advocacy center, when you're working with people that have been victims of crimes. So there's a lot of paperwork involved, but you learn a lot through the paperwork. At first, when I called in and was asking about the responsibilities that this specific internship would provide, they talked a lot about paperwork, and that kind of made me not too excited. But once I got working and doing the paperwork, I realized that there's actually a lot to learn from it. Conducting child and family assessments. When you're an advocacy center, this is when you're talking with the child and you're assessing them. You're seeing if they have any disabilities, if they are verbal, just trying to determine how well the child is functioning, and just looking for any red flags or anything that you can do to make their experience better. The family assessment is when you'll actually talk with the parents about the process, about what the child's been through, how to talk to your child about their victimization, and anything like that. Organizing and managing the donation closet. This just included all the donations that we would receive at the advocacy center. We had to organize that and then manage it and make sure all our different closets were full and working and functioning, so that as we would escort children out, we could ensure that they had something that they either wanted or needed. Conducting family follow-ups. This is after a child or a victim would come through the advocacy center. We like to call and check up on them, make sure that the child is doing okay, make sure that nothing else has occurred, or see if there's anything that us as the center can provide for the family or the child. I also had to staff cases at our MTD meetings, which is like a multidisciplinary team meeting. This is when law enforcement and CPS would come every other week, and we would talk about the different cases that had come through the advocacy center for the past 2 weeks. We would try and talk about what had occurred with the case, whether it had been closed or if it was still pending or if an arrest had been made. And so as a family advocate intern, I had the opportunity to talk about those cases and bring them up, and that's called staffing them. I also completed crime victim applications. These applications were for the families and the child. These applications provided needed assistance for the families, everything from employment assistance to child care or to relocation costs or therapy, anything like that. There's an application that has to be filled out, and a lot of times the parents need help with that, and then it needs to be faxed over to the district attorney's office to be approved. And so there's a process there that I was able to experience and to fulfill. And then we provided on-site and off-site therapy referrals. A lot of times the children needed therapy and counseling after their victimization, and so we would provide those referrals and help set up their appointments. I think that this was something that I had thought a lot about, what kind of benefits I feel the Advocacy Center received as a result of me being there. The first thing was that Estrella's House had never had a student from Brigham Young University be an intern there. There's a college down here in McAllen, Texas, that they regularly get interns from, but the requirements for those students are very, very different, and the outline of everything was very different compared to what it's like as a student at Brigham Young University. So it provided an opportunity for them to gain new perspectives and also learn some different requirements associated with different interns. So I think that was a benefit for them. Obviously I was able to help service more victims with them, and they had a higher completion of those family follow-ups that I talked about before. Sometimes those get put on the back burner when there's lots of families and victims coming through. So I was able to help follow up with a lot of those families. I received a lot of personal benefits myself. It was hard to kind of put them all into bullet points, but the biggest thing is that you gain professional experience. Specifically for me, I got to work with children and families, and I got to see what that was like, the ins and outs, what it would be like on a daily basis being a family advocate, particularly at an advocacy center. I loved being able to take the things that I've learned in a lot of my other major courses and apply them in a professional setting, and apply them to the things that I was doing as I was working with the children and families, and also as I was working with the other family advocates. And like I said, I gained an understanding of what family advocate responsibilities really are and what a day-to-day schedule really looks like. It definitely helped me gain confidence and made me realize that I do have valuable skills that I could add to helping others, and that increase in confidence was something that I really appreciated gaining from my experience. And then I also was able to learn some skills in being able to speak with those victims. You have to talk to them about sensitive topics, and while you might think that you're one of the greatest communicators, it's very different communicating on a child level with someone who's been through something so traumatizing. So I loved being able to gain that benefit as well. One of the things that I discovered, I was able to discover a lot of connections from previous coursework with my experiences that I had at my internship. But one of the biggest things I learned is that small things make the biggest difference. And what I mean by that is, as you'll notice going through a lot of your marriage and family courses, you learn a lot about these small things, whether you're learning about parenting or communicating or strengthening relationships, the developmental process of an individual. There's small things that can make the biggest difference. For example, I guess with parenting, I remember in one of my classes reading a book called The 10 Basic Principles of Parenting, and you learn about how not only do you need to alter or adapt your parenting for each child, but you need to alter and adapt that parenting for each stage that one child goes through. And it talked about some small, slight adjustments that you can make in your parenting, and the results of those small changes could be profound on your child and in your relationship with your child. And that's just one small example of how a small thing can make a big difference. But I definitely learned this in my internship as well. Sometimes you feel like you want to be able to fix all the problems for that one child that comes through and who's been through something so traumatizing, and you feel like you're just making one little drop in the bucket. But in the end, you realize that even your small efforts are making a difference for them. Even through the little things that might feel insignificant to you, they can make a big difference in the life of a child. And so it was neat to make that connection. So if any of you are ever living in Texas and need to complete your internship here, this is the information for where I did my internship. Again, it's called Estrella's House, and it's in Edinburgh, Texas. That's the telephone number, and Lisa Gomez is the intern supervisor. For any of you that are slightly interested in doing an internship at a children's advocacy center, again, I would highly recommend it. I had a wonderful experience, and it was exactly what I hoped it would be. And just in conclusion, like I said, it was a great experience, and sometimes things don't necessarily go the way you think they will, or perhaps you're not gaining as much experience in a certain area that you wanted to or that you thought you would. But it's good to remember that you can adapt, and remember to take the initiative in things, and you can end up having a really positive experience and learning things that you might not have thought would be useful to you. And that is everything.